It's a celebration.
Go ahead and get us started. We've had so much to do in this party we're at. So I want to go ahead and jump in. Hello, 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 everybody. So good to see you all. Please continue to share your hellos and greetings in the chat. So good to see so many friendly faces and so many familiar names. As you can see, it's a celebration. And we're so happy to have you all here with us. As you know, it's a pivotal point for the trust-based philanthropy movement. And I'm so thrilled to be here with you all today, celebrating and reflecting on our collective work together and where we're at in this movement. So I'm Shantia Ford. I'm the Director of Programs and Strategic Learning here at the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project. And I'll be your MC for the day. So I'm here to kind of keep the party going, and I hope you'll join me in bringing the energy and the dancing and the celebration and all of the joy that we try to bring into these spaces. And I'm already feeling the love, so I hope you kind of continue that going in the chat and virtually. And we'll do the best we can to have a virtual party together. So of course, the full team is here to support and we'll be talking at different points in the program. But feel free to reach out to any of us if you need anything, if you need tech support, if anything's going on. We've got our eye on the chat, we've got our eye on things. We have CART transcription available. You can find the information about that in the chat if that's needed. If there are any other accessibility needs, again, please let us know. I've got our colleague Danielle LaJoy, who is on it as usual. So especially with tech concerns, please feel free to reach out to her. And also, as a note, we'll have plenty of opportunities for engagement today. This isn't your typical Zoom webinar. This is a party, of course. So we'll have engagement in the chat, and we also want you to feel free to share. At certain sections, we'll be talking openly with one another. And we also have a Padlet board that we'll be using throughout to encourage some engagement there as well. There'll be some spaces for reflection, for questions, for sharing any thoughts and insights. So please feel free to grab the link to that Padlet and share some of your thoughts, react to what other people are sharing. My colleagues dropping that link in the chat, you should be able to see that. And yeah, please open it and add your thoughts and respond to others. Um, but before we fully jump into things, of course, in true celebration nature, we have to see who is in the room. And we know the TBP community is large and diverse and vast, and you come from all different sorts of walks of life. And we just want to see who all is in the room with us today at this party. So you can use the Tada reaction. I'll kind of model it if you go to the reaction piece. You see the little thing for the party. It's a party, it's a celebration. So you can kind of use that. Thank you. People are modeling it. So we'll start out with the relationship to TBP. So if you are a TBP ambassador, a champion, if you've been about it. Let's see the tadas, the reactions. Okay, you're seeing some. All right. Awesome. I love when people use the oh, sorry. I love when people use the effect one that's all over the screen. If you're on the steering committee, I know we've got some steering committee folks here. All right. If you're a PSO partner, we've got some partners in the room. Yeah. Yeah, love it. We'll be doing more shout outs throughout the time here, but love to see some of our friends. If you've been a speaker, if you've spoken at any TBP events, whether we hosted them or somebody else hosted them, if you've shared your knowledge, your experience, love it. Yes. Seeing a lot of friends here. If you've been a cohort participant, if you've dug in, we've had multiple different cohorts, either hosted by us or other PSOs. If you've been in a multi-part series, all right. If you're a newbie, complete newbie, this is your first time you've heard about it, but this is your first time being here with us. Love to see your faces as well. Thank you for joining us. All right. All right. I actually feel like that's enough of a roll call. I want to jump into things. I could keep going with some other things, but I think we can kind of see who all is in the room, and you can feel free to continue putting in the chat who you are, where you're from, where you're situated. I know we're all over location wise. Of course, we want to send special heartfelt love to our people in Florida and the South Coast with everything happening. I know it's a really difficult time, so we're definitely sending love and wishing for safety and wellness. And just in general, it's a difficult time for a lot of us, even if we're not in the face of it, we're experiencing things and seeing things. And so just sending a lot of love and support to everybody and um, hoping everybody is staying safe and well. But we're gonna jump into things um with our time together. This, as I mentioned, this is not your typical Zoom call, typical webinar. Of course, we're starting with our opening right now, which we're doing. We're going to spend some time reflecting on the TBP story, what our trajectory has looked like, reflecting on this movement that we've been on together. We're going to have some special reflections from some guests, some special leaders in the field. We're super excited to hear from. And we're going to spend some time talking about the future of TBP. What's next? I know everybody's asking. So, what does this mean? Where are y'all going? What's happening next? So, we'll spend some time talking about that. We'll have a special performance. Super excited for this. So, I hope you can stay put and enjoy our special performance. We have a special guest coming. And then we'll have a gratitude circle. We'll have some time and space to share gratitude to all of you, to everybody that's been a part of this beautiful movement. And we'll have a closing. And we do have some special surprises throughout, as you can see. So hold tight. I hope you're all energized and ready to go. And you can see our intentions for this time together today, of course, to celebrate the achievements both of the project and of our collective community. You all have been leaning in and doing this work. And so we just want to celebrate and reflect on that, to acknowledge the learnings and the growth that we've all had as a sector. I know we can be very negative a lot of times and critical, but there's so much beauty and so many amazing things that have been happening in our sector and in our society. And so we definitely want to acknowledge that and share some of the learning that we've been having. And of course, to share more about what's next for us. And of course, that's just some of the tone that we're trying to bring. And I hope that you also bring the tone as well, bring the celebration, bring the reflection and the inspiration and the joy. We want all of those different things. And I hope you all feel very accomplished in this work that we've been collectively doing. Um, so with that, I want to go ahead and jump in with our first surprise. Super excited. We will be having prizes throughout this program. So I hope you all are um, staying, paying attention. And I'm just now looking at the chat. Love, love, love all of the energy I'm seeing in the chat. Of course, no party is complete without prizes, without gifts, and we want to definitely send you all home with some. So we'll be having giveaways throughout the program and a grand prize at the end. So hopefully you stay put for the grand prize at the end. As you can see, we have some fun TBP related um, prizes and things. And what we'll do is we'll throw out some TBP related questions. And the first person in the chat that gets the answer right gets a chance to spin the prize wheel. Yes, we have a prize wheel. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And we're actually going to go ahead and kick things off. I've got a chance to win a prize with the first question. So hopefully your fingers are ready. You're ready to jump in. This should be an easy one. So this is more so who's just the quickest. The first question is, what are the four dimensions of TBP? Oh, I've got my here we go. Okay. I'll sing an answer. Let me see. Oh, oh, we don't have it yet. It's close. Practice culture, leadership, values is close. Culture, structures, leadership. Nisha got it. Yes, that's it. Yes. Congratulations, Nisha. You got the first prize. Culture, structures, leadership, and practices. Those are the 4 dimensions of TBP. So you get to spin the prize wheel. So let's see what Nisha got. You got a treat basket. Ah, yay.
I am
Awesome.
nothing if not a nerd. I've just proven that.
Love it, love it, love it. Awesome. Thanks, Nisha. Our first big winner. So our colleague Danielle is going to share a link to you privately for you to fill out your mailing address so we can send you your treat basket. So thank you for being the first model of how our prizes are going to go. So we'll have prizes like this throughout, and we'll have different ways to win. So please keep an eye out. I actually think we have one more prize slated for right now. Oh, yes. This is a question, a reflection type of, not a reflection, but it's a scenario type of question. What resource, TBP resource, would you share if a colleague is concerned about legal compliance and legitimacy? Ooh, what resource would you share? Let me put on the music. Your website, I love it. Yes. Just send the whole website, read it all. Yes, yes, there is. I love the people. Yes, just send them straight to Minor. Great resource. There is a specific piece. Absolutely. That's what I'm looking for. That's the answer. To get a chance to win the next prize is a specific answer we're looking for. A specific resource. Ah, I think Alicia got it. Yeah. I think Alicia got it. Well, there's actually a resource. That's the blog. There's a resource that complements it, but I will, and actually
Rosanna got
yeah,
yeah.
Rosanna actually got the actual resource. But you know what? We've got plenty of prizes, so I'm actually going to give both of you all a chance to do the prize wheel. Yeah, there we go. So let me go back to the prize wheel. And this one is for Alicia. Alicia, where are you at?
I'm here.
Hi. All right, let's see what you get. You get a Moleskine notebook.
Oh, woohoo!
Yes.
Thank you. Never won
And then
anything.
congratulations. And then
Yeah.
Rosanna, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly. All right, let's see what you win.
First way you said it was actually perfect.
Okay.
Very good.
And you get a treat basket. That's the one filled with all of those goodies. So
Ooh.
congratulations to both of you. All right, let's keep this train going. Thank you so much to all of you for participating. Stay tuned for more opportunities to win prizes throughout this. And with that, I am excited to pass things over to our amazing leaders, Pia and Shadi, who are going to be sharing more reflections on the story of TBP. So with that, I am going to take the screen down and we'll keep things moving.
Hi, everyone. I think we're going to be pinned for you in just a sec. Hello. Thank you for joining us. What a day. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years. So Shadi and I are really happy to have you pull up a chair, grab a cup of tea. We'd love to just tell it, like, do story time. This is story time. A long, long time ago, in a living room near the Ferry Building in San Francisco, there was once a meeting about when the Whitman Institute decided to spend out our endowment. There was a conversation that went something like, okay, well, obviously, who we are most accountable to is our grantee partners and the communities they serve. So our first question when we decided to spend out, and I think we have some TWI former board members, and my former co-executive director, John, is here. So the story started there, which was really just an inquiry into how we could be of service to the people we felt most accountable to in this work. And it evolved into a study we had an external partner do to hold this inquiry. And that message that we got loud and clear was, well, you're one of the good guys, right? You're one of the funders that we trust. And if you're going away, then our behest, request to you is that you leverage everything you've got to try to get other funders to partner with us in the ways that you do. And I remember John and I both gulped and said, okay, that's really big. That's really big. And of course. So that's the beginning of the story. But it wasn't, I mean, what I really want to say about all of this from the very beginning is that it was a collective request from our grantee partners. I can specifically see partner Luz Santana. She's with the Right Question Institute, and her beautiful face, and her saying, "This is really hard, Pia. This doing what we're trying to do and trying to get funding, and trying to get funding that doesn't hem us in or have us, like circumvent our own values and trust our own gut. It's hard to get the kind of funding that is really about trusting our vision, our commitment, and accountability. So if you can do anything at all to, help philanthropy reimagine how to be in partnership with us, that would be very real. And I think of her in this moment, Luz, I don't know if you're here, but I think of Luz and the other partners who pretty much said the same thing. And from there, John and I started to look around and realized that there were actually people near us that were practicing in the same way, principled servant leadership style, in collaboration, in extended partnerships of trust and mutuality and learning. And we started with a peer group, a small set of people that used to be called the How Club because we were interested in how philanthropy operated. And it started to grow. And the name Trust-Based Philanthropy came directly from our grantee partners, from the conversations they had with the evaluators that we worked with. And they said it was, the two concepts that came up very strongly were relationship and trust. And so from there, this sort of idea that was given to us by folks like Luz Santana started to grow into a collective sort of peer organizing effort to see if we could make a small dent in how philanthropy operated. So it has these very kind of grassroots beginnings with our partners, and then it became something like of a grassroots effort within peer funders. And so I guess the last thing I'll say is that I don't think we ever expected trust-based philanthropy become ubiquitous as at least a phrase and a conversation in the sector. And I think it's the power of the collective. And if we had operated very singularly or individually, or if we thought all we have to do is hire a marketing expert, I don't think that we would be here with so many of you today and have had, you know, such impactful work that we've done with so many of you that are here today and those that are not in the room. So I'm going to pass it to Shadi to talk a little bit more about how this spark became where we're sitting now from our vantage point.
Thank you, Pia. And it's just really emotional to be here with all of you after all the years that we have spent together on Zoom. And here we are, almost 5 years after we launched the project. And it's just really thrilling to see all of you here. So as Pia mentioned, this movement was built on relationships. It started with a request from nonprofits, and I used to be a grantee of the Whitman Institute. So I was in the room when all of us came together and made this request of the Whitman Institute to spend their remaining time advocating for a different way of practicing philanthropy. And so that organizing started to grow there 10 years ago, really. And then year after year, a few other funders joined on. And then we had Phil Lee of the Robert Sterling Clark Foundation and Brenda Solorzano of the Headwaters Foundation team up with the Whitman Institute to build something together. And then that just began to snowball. And I remember we were at the GEO conference in 2018 in San Francisco, and we hosted our 2 first workshops on trust-based philanthropy. And it was standing room only, and we had to turn people away. And I remember huddling as a group in the hallway after that conference workshop with Pia, with John, with Phil, with Brenda, with Lisa Cowan, also from Robert Sterling Clark. And we put our heads together and we said, we need to build something because there's a lot of interest here. And that's what led to the building and the launch of the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project in 2020. And really, we just had no idea where it would all go. But there were a few things that we really leaned on in this time of building this movement with you all that has remained core to how we operate, and that remains core to what it means to practice and embody trust-based philanthropy. We started our work by listening and learning, listening to funders, hearing from them, what are the challenges that you're dealing with? How are you trying to push change forward? We started also, of course, by listening and learning from nonprofit leaders. What are you grappling with? What do you want funders to know? What have you tried? How can we message this better? We talked to partners. That was a core part of everything that we've continued to do. We knew we couldn't do this work alone. So we leaned on our relationships with the philanthropic serving organizations, philanthropy member organizations, who were already convening funders and already interrogating questions or interrogating notions of power in philanthropy. So we really wanted to go where the energy and the momentum was. And we wanted to just support that and continue to build upon this foundation that really was deeply built on relationships from the very beginning. We also remained responsive and adaptive. When we started this effort, we thought we should raise $1.5 million for 5 years. And we thought, we just need a little bit of money to just network some funders and just see what happens. And, you know, we need 1 half-time staff person and we'll see how things go. And then, of course, within 3 months of the launch of our initiative, we were hit with COVID and we had to reimagine everything that we had already planned. We quickly took all of our stuff on Zoom. That was not originally our vision. We were going to just be going to conferences. I was going to be, sending funders to different conferences. That was the original vision. So we quickly pivoted, became, as adept as we could at Zoom. And then we brought all this, and then there was a real demand. And so we kept responding and listening to that demand. And of course, that was soon followed by a racial reckoning where there was a real opening and awareness of philanthropy's complicity and systemic racism and how that's been so intertwined with all the power dynamics and all these other issues that we had been advocating for. So we continued to evolve the framework. We moved from describing trust-based philanthropy as 6 practices to a multidimensional, 4-dimensional approach that reinforces the importance of culture, structures, leadership, and practices. And we continued to respond to where the questions were coming from. People had questions about legal issues. People had questions about compliance. People had questions about operationalizing. So we continue to respond and evolve. We also continued to expand our network. We grew our staff. We went from a half-time, one person to a staff that grew to 7 people at one point, so that we could build up our capacity to support the needs and the demands. And we evolved our community of champions. We have so many of you here. We knew that we needed to build a network where we could fortify and strengthen and align around these shared values. So together, over the course of these 5 years, we've reinforced a new narrative about the role of philanthropy. We've expanded awareness and adoption of trust-based philanthropy across the globe. Our Google alerts are going like gangbusters every day. We see a new mention of trust-based philanthropy. We also have data that demonstrates that adoption is happening and it's growing in terms of the adoption of trust-based practices. We've seen it. We've seen these practical shifts in grant making, including more evidence for unrestricted funding, more evidence for streamlined paperwork. We have a survey report that's coming out in the next month or so that will show some of our latest data on this, but the numbers show that adoption is happening. And we've shifted the discourse together, where trust-based philanthropy has become a frequently referenced phrase, sometimes not with a full accuracy, but it is getting frequently referenced beyond our wildest dreams. And most importantly, or another important point is that we've demonstrated that small and mid-sized foundations can power a movement. This has been a movement, a collective effort where it started with a relatively small foundation and it has continued to grow with many of you stepping in and leaning in. And so I wanted to share some numbers, just some kind of highlights of some of the numbers that we've been able to achieve together. So over the last 5 years, we've had almost 250,000 unique website visitors. Our LinkedIn following has grown to over 20,000. We've expanded our peer exchange of funders, which has only been around for the last 3.5 years. We've reached 1,000 plus funders, and our newsletter subscribers continue to grow. I'm not always one to lean into the quantitative, but this is just a demonstration in numbers of how we have expanded our reach, and this has truly been a collective effort that we could not have gotten to this point without you all, because you all are represented in these numbers and they are human beings behind all of this. So we are just so grateful and just so excited for what's to come.
Thank you, Shadi. I remember thinking at the very beginning, if we could just get as many followers as Vu Le, then maybe we'll be somewhere, you know? Are we going to take down this number slide? Or anyway, I'm going to wrap up our opening comments and introduce our next speaker. But I'll just say that, you know, one of the things we think about is that trust-based philanthropy is a collective dream that was initially, we thought, dreamed by the, you know, the grantee partners, social movement leaders, nonprofits in our network at the Whitman Institute. And we quickly realized it's also a collective dream of many practitioners in philanthropy. There's so many folks in philanthropy that want to see it structured differently, experience it culturally differently, want to use philanthropy as a tool for equity and for a more just and equitable society. So the collective dream that I hope we're all dreaming is that whatever we call this kind of philanthropy, trust-based, equity-driven, that what we're collectively dreaming and bringing into being is philanthropies that are more aligned with and synergized with bringing about a more just and equitable world in all different kinds of ways. So it is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce my former co-executive director of the Whitman Institute, friend, mentor, future, soon to be grandfather, John Esterly, to share a few comments from your vantage point, John, of having spent out the Whitman Institute and sort of stepped out of the story for a while.
Thanks, Pia. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you all today. You know, I've been out of philanthropy now a couple of years, so it's wonderful to see your faces and join everybody and just offer a few reflections from the long view, I guess. And I guess one was just, I was thinking back, even you were referencing our story of just when we were at the Whitman Institute and first started making grants, and advocating and practicing unrestricted funding and multi-year funding, streamlined paperwork, because those things just made an inherent sense to me from my own experience, having to deal for many years with the founding donor, who was a difficult person, and having a lot of experience with the power dynamics that come with wealth. So when we started making grants, I really wanted it to be from a place of service. What can we do to be of service to you, rather than what do you have to do to prove you're worthy of us? And I think that spirit has been with the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project from its inception and even before, when we were kind of advocating by ourselves for it. So I think that sense of service and embodying that, I think, has always been present, and that's been a big part of the success of the project. I think for me, what has been powerful learning too was that as much as I was advocating for unrestricted funding and multi-year funding and streamlined paperwork, a lot of other people were doing that and had been doing it for a while. And I just want to give acknowledgement to places like GEO and Northern California Grantmakers for offering a place for me to be one of the people making that argument. But what really struck me is the power of naming and framing. And when Pia came on as co-executive director and took the lead of, okay, let's listen to our grantee partners. They've been talking about how important trust is, and let's break this down into concrete steps. And I think trust became and is an inviting framework for people to get into the difficult territory of wrestling with power, giving up power, looking at their ego. And that has been so gratifying to see how many people have responded to that framing. I think another thing, Pia and Shadi mentioned this about how both the urge to advocate came from listening to our grantee partners as well as the trust frame, and Shadi talked about that before. But it never ceases to strike me that one of the core practices, which is listening and acting on feedback, has been one that the project itself has really modeled and embodied and continues to, and that continues to inform its work. And that learning out loud part of the project, which is a credit to everybody on the call here, continues to be a big part of that success. So, I could go on about so much of this, but I just want to say it's so gratifying to be here and to see where the project has gone, the impact the movement has had, coming from just, at least for me, my own little seed of way back when of, oh, maybe the Institute could influence in some way the larger philanthropic conversation. And so it means so much to be here today and to see how all of you, the steering committee, the staff, and those of you who have been advocates, champions, practitioners, continue to carry on this work, which continues to need to be done. There's so much more still to do, so much, but it's great to celebrate where we've been. I think we learn out loud. It's really important to celebrate out loud. So thank you.
Wow, thanks,
Can we
John.
clap?
I just want to be like,
Yeah.
"Woo, John,
Yes,
thank
please,
you."
please share all the love, all the heart reacts. The if you have the updated version of Zoom, you can do the effect thing. All of the
Oh, thank you.
wow. What an honor and a privilege to be in the space with the godfather of TBP. Thank you, John and Pia and Shadi and all of the other amazing leaders for paving the way and for sharing that story and reflecting on how things started and where we are now. What a beautiful reflection. And I love all of the love we're getting in the chat, people sharing how honored and proud they are to be a part of this and the integrity and community that we've built. So yes, thank you to all of you. I hope y'all are ready for more prizes. Because we're jumping right back in with more prizes. Let me share my screen and I hope you all are ready. Because we're gonna have some prizes and then we're going to have a few more reflections. This next question, I hope y'all are ready. What publication is the recent TVP supplement? The future of philanthropy is trust-based. What publication is it in? Oh, okay, we're on it. Love it, love it. I think the first person that got it was Caitlin Brune on my end. Congratulations, Caitlin. Y'all are on it. SSIR, yes, definitely. And if you have not had a chance to check it out, please do. And hopefully you all are aligned on the future of philanthropy is trust-based. But Caitlin, this one is for you. Let's see what you want. Trust your dopeness candle. It is beautiful. It smells amazing. Congratulations. You're going to get that in the mail. Danielle's going to send you a link so that you can send us your mailing address. Congratulations. And actually, I'm going to leave this up because I have another question. What resource? So I hope you got the website ready. What resource would you share if somebody says you can't measure impact with TBP? And you've got a few options here. So what resource would you share? That's the next question. If somebody says you cannot measure impact with TBP, what resource would you share? Ooh, I love it. I'm gonna give it to Andrea Brown. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, we've got some good ones. Love it. But I'm gonna give it to Andrea. You got it. We've got some good ones in the chat. I'm actually just gonna drop some good links. Or actually, Danielle, I'll let you drop it while I'm doing the prize wheel. To see what you got. A tree basket. Ah, yay. Exciting. Congratulations. So thanks again for humoring me with the prize wheel. I'm so happy to see people winning these prizes. So we're going to keep things moving. We've got some more great reflections and speakers and presentations and things going. I want to pass things over to a special guest we have. I'm excited and honored to bring Sebastian Africano to the stage. Sebastian is the executive director of Trees, Water, and People, an environmental organization with a human focus. For over 25 years, Trees, Water, and People has been a leader in the design and implementation of programs that produce tangible benefits for people and planet, which of course is such a timely and urgent work. And so to share some reflections and a special presentation, I see Sebastian, you're already up here. So we're excited to hear from you.
Great. Hello, everybody. I feel so fortunate to be here with you all. And just thanks and congratulations to everyone involved in building this movement. We stumbled into trust-based philanthropy as a movement by accident. It's something that we have been practicing and working with our donors on for many years, since about 2015. I became executive director in 2017. And as the first Latin American hire of our organization that worked in Latin America, I'm actually in Guatemala right now in Caxiquiel territory. I'm at the Central America Donors Forum, which is an incredible democratization of philanthropy conference. Trust-based philanthropy, in other words, in other terms, is being spoken about in all the circles and conversations. There's more than 400 organizations here. But you know, we started to have a different relationship with our work and the people that we served, the communities that we served, which are mostly rural, indigenous, economically marginalized communities throughout the Americas, from Honduras, north, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, and also with Native American communities in the US. And you know, a real big turning point, of course, was in 2020, but even before 2020, community started asking us, you know, why are we counting numbers of things per dollar when what we're really working on are structural changes in how we manage our land and structural changes in how our land is governed by outsiders, and the threats that we face to our cultures and community and ancestry. And we listened to them, right? And I think Shadi, when we were having this conversation and telling the story, when we were, you know, counting trees for donors and measuring survival rates and growth rates, and we just said, you know, this isn't what we're here for, and this isn't what the communities are really trying to achieve. And Shadi said, well, they were literally missing the forest for the trees, and that was exactly right. And so we changed our approach and started having more direct conversations with our supporters and our foundation partners about meeting, you know, agreeing to work towards the community's goals that are generational in nature. They're working against challenges. A lot of our work is in climate change mitigation, adaptation, climate migration, and climate justice. You know, and these are problems that have been centuries in the making. We're not going to solve them in quarter-to-quarter grant cycles or year-long grant cycles. Yeah, I'm in Guatemala. I'm in the tropics, so there's bugs and all sorts of stuff. But we had to coach our funders, and many agreed to work with us on this about thinking long term about the challenges that we were facing. And then in 2020, COVID hit. Right on the tail of COVID shutdowns, 2 hurricanes hit Central America, Eta and Iota back to back. Love to Florida. I know that Milton is a very scary prospect right now. Migration spiked. We had the biggest forest fire in Colorado history, followed by the biggest forest fire in New Mexico history. And, you know, that just strengthened our resolve to really have these conversations with our donors and say, we are working on a crisis situation and it's ongoing and it's generational, and we have to think about it and approach it in those ways. And we had a lot of receptivity to that idea, and funders that agreed to work with us in long-term, multi-year, unrestricted ways, because a lot of our work in that time was building relationships and really building networks, strengthening those networks, strengthening the ecosystems of organizations that already exist on the ground, facing these problems. And, you know, the results were after many years of struggle, our community that we worked with in Honduras that first told us to focus on the bigger picture, we ended up earlier this year founding a national wildlife reserve on their ancestral forests that were under threat by the developing capital city of Tegucigalpa. We struck a deal with the Forest Service in the US to let tribes conduct restoration activities on US Forest Service land that had suffered forest fires and was affecting their livelihoods and lifeways, cultural lifeways. And we were able to achieve these huge accomplishments because we focused on the relationships, because we focused on creating a platform for communities and putting their priorities first and not the priorities of our funders, nor the priorities that we had as an organization. So we've really fundamentally changed the way that we work. We discovered trust-based philanthropy in the process. The first time was a webinar with Brenda, completely blew my mind. I found my people, I found a community that were working in the same way. I found language to put to the work that we were doing. And it just went from there. And so we approached the TBP project earlier this year because we have 2 filmmakers on staff. Right now, you know, I was the first Latino hire, and now we have staff from Costa Rica, from Mexico, from Guatemala, from Honduras, from Santo Domingo Pueblo, from Okeowingwe Pueblo, from the Navajo Nation. And we really wanted to tell the story from the perspective of community. And so we started to produce a film with our internal staff. We funded it ourselves. to tell the story of what we were able to achieve with trust-based philanthropy and changing the way that we work both with our funders and with our communities in a more unified way. And so today is the release of the trailer. You all are going to be the first to see the trailer of this film. The full-length film comes out on the 17th. And if you visit twp.org/trust, that's TWP, not TBP, you can sign up to be notified when that film drops. And it's just a collection of stories for the sector. It's not about our work specifically, it's through the lens of our work, but it's really to strengthen this movement and to show funders that there's a different way to approach these challenges. They're existential, they're multi-generational, and we have to fund in that same way. So enjoy the trailer of the film, reach out if you'd like to hear more, and check out twp.org/TBP to be informed of the release. Thank you all.
I think that there is a lot of fear in philanthropy around making the wrong grant, about doing something where it could be revealed that this money went the wrong place, it wasn't used the way that it was supposed to be used. And that fear, I think, is what drives the traditional way of grant making.
This work is built on relationships, and that's something that we talk about, in our traditional ways. We sit down, we have meals, we share meals.
It's not necessarily the end product, it's about the process.
And we as natives, we manage our forest areas.
Trust-based philanthropy, I believe we've always had it in our communities. We've always believed in one another to do good work and support each other.
If a funder or philanthropist is interested in addressing a challenge or an opportunity in a community, it must be informed by the people who are experiencing the challenge or the opportunity.
If you trust the organization, why not let them allocate the funds where they want?
It's incredibly beneficial to our program. It allows us to plan years in advance as opposed to constantly sort of scrambling around to secure enough project work and funding.
I guess the best way for me to describe it, you do this work from your heart. And if you do it from your heart, then it expands and extends to everybody that you work with.
Wow. Thank you, Sebastian, and Trees Water people for all of your amazing work. Let me put the slide back up. Wow, what a beautiful trailer. Super excited. Can we get some love in the chat, reactions, all sorts of different things. Super excited to see that trailer and see the story being told, especially from the nonprofit perspective. Super excited to see that work being done in the community. So thank you to you and the meaningful work you're doing. Awesome. So we are going to keep things moving. I'm super excited to bring someone to the TBP main stage that needs no introduction. Boulay is of Nonprofit AF, is a writer, a speaker, a vegan, Pisces. Yes, I took that from your website. And the former executive director of RBC, a nonprofit in Seattle that promotes social justice by developing leaders of color, strengthening organizations led by communities of color, and fostering collaboration among diverse communities. Of course, he's well known in our community for his complementary work on pushing philanthropy to do and be better. We're so thrilled and honored he could lend his time and humor to share a few reflections. So Vu, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Vu. I am calling in from Duwamish and Coast Salish land in Seattle. And yeah, thank you. Some of you may know that I'm the dude who yells at funders. I've been doing that for the past 12 years or so. And it's because funders have done and have said a lot of scary, nonsensical things. Actually, I was asked to give out a prize by doing a quick activity. So in the chat, if you can put out something scary because Halloween is coming up. Something scary that you've heard a funder say. It could be to their own grantee or to you, or something scary that you once said before you bought into TBP, right? And I'm gonna select a couple of scary quotes, and you're gonna get a prize from that. Okay. So, oh, let's see. We're pausing grant making until after the election. Yes, that's great because we can just all pause our work, right? We just do that. You should be on your knees. What sort of asshole would say this? What sort of asshole funder would say? Anyone. No one should say that. That's horrifying. Oh man, so many things. I've run out of funds. Okay, that's probably a good thing, but that's usually not what funders mean. What they mean is we're only going to give out 5% because we're hoarding the rest for future things. That's very scary. Well, this is all coming in. This is terrifying, everyone. Here's a project you should do because we are funders and we know what's best because we have money. Therefore, you should do what we say. We're like a cartel. Wow. Okay, this is coming in so fast that I cannot actually read everything right here. So it might take me a while to read through them. But there's some really scary things on here. Please mail in a full physical copy of your Form 990. That is ridiculous because 990s are online. You can just go and make a few clicks and you will see everything. That is absolutely asinine. Right? Please send 9 paper copies of your 50-page application, including your 501c3. Yeah, no, that is really awful. Please keep them coming, everyone. I have a couple of minutes. And I'll select a couple of the scariest ones, but I already see some that are going to keep me up at night and probably will feature in like an Instagram reel at some point in the next couple of weeks. I've met some funders, and there's been some really scary ones, clueless ones, including one who pulled me out of paternity leave when my first kid was born, because we thought it was a site visit for a $100,000 grant that we had applied to. No, they dragged us downtown where we had to pay for parking, and I was out of paternity leave so that they could give us feedback because we did not get the grant. That could have been accomplished over a 5-minute conversation on the phone. But instead, they were like, no, you have to come here just so we can give you the feedback. And I said, why? You could have just called me. And they said, oh, well, we wanted this to be confidential. So we thought that we would have you in person so that you could keep this confidential. Because they just didn't trust that they could just ask it on the phone. I don't know. It's been very frustrating. And so I was really hardened when I ran into Pia and John when my organization was applying to TWI, and it was actually kind of shocking because I had scheduled a meeting with Pia and John for I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks later after I had emailed them, and when I talked to them, they were like asking all these questions, very detailed questions. And I had not even sent in my application yet. And they said, well, we already did all the homework. We read through your evaluation report and annual report and everything on your website because it's all out there. And I was kind of speechless because I think we were so used, I was so used to this suspicion-based philanthropy that it was kind of, it was a little bit shocking. And it was nice to be in that relationship, where you feel trusted, where you feel like you're actually a partner in doing this work together and not like someone who's like a freeloader trying to beg for alms or whatever, which I think is what philanthropy has often felt like. And as I got to know trust-based philanthropy and the people in it, it just felt so revolutionary, and it really shouldn't feel that revolutionary. But I remember one time Phil called me up, Phil Lee from Robert Sterling Clark called me up and was like, Vu, we like what you're doing, and we think it's a good match. Can you just find a grant application that you had written for someone else and just forward the whole thing to us? And I think what he said that has been anchored in my mind was, and don't even worry about changing the name of that other foundation. Just don't even worry about it. Just send the whole thing over. No editing whatsoever. And I hung up the phone, and a single teardrop rolled down my face poetically in the moonlight in my car. And I searched through my phone, and I found this grant that I had spent 40 hours writing. It had 10-page narrative, like 12 attachments, like a bespoke budget in the funders format, a theory of change, a logic model, the blood type of every board member. I don't know why they asked for that, but that's what we did. And I just forwarded to Phil, and we got this grant. And it was just amazing. It took me literally 3 minutes to do. And it was just really amazing. I'm just so grateful for how TBP has been changing the minds of funders and transforming not just the way funders do things, but the way that funders look at us, at nonprofits. And I think that is really amazing. And I think one of the best things about TBP is that I've met so many incredible people. It's kind of like a marker of how cool you are, It's like, oh, you're a funder? Do you know TBP? And if they're like, oh yeah, we know TBP, all right, this funder is really cool. Okay, we can invite them to the vegan barbecue. I can. So, so that's a good way to gauge whether a funder is cool, is whether they know TBP. And or if they don't and they're open to it, then that they could be really cool. So congratulations to Trust-Based Philanthropy, and thank you for all that you've been doing and for making my work easier, because I can go on to rant about other things in the sector now. It's been really great. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thanks, Vu. That was beautiful. Thank you for that reflection, and thank you for that prompt. I know I'm still scared. I'm still shuddering looking at some of the prompts in there. And I mean, I know I've got a few that definitely take the cake for scariest. If you want to pick one or two to win some nonprofit AF prizes, we'll share those out. We can do that in the chat if you're still scrolling. And we want to kind of keep the energy going and keep the conversation going. We have another reflection I want to tee up, another speaker. And I'm gonna share my screen quickly so we can see the cover. But yes, I am beyond honored to bring our next special guest to the main stage. As you all know, Brenda Solorzano has been a huge champion for TBPs since the beginning. As the previous CEO of the Headwaters Foundation and the newly appointed president and CEO of the California Endowment. Congratulations, Brenda. Let's give her some love in the chat, in the reactions, all of the things. I need smiles, I need claps, thumbs up, all of that. But it is such an honor to have such a prominent leader championing this work. We'll have Brenda share some reflections, and then we will continue moving things along. Did she hop off?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me?
I cannot. Let's get her up on the.
Brenda, what are you named on here? Can you tell? Don't.
No.
There we go.
Oh, okay,
Perfect.
there we
Thank
go.
you.
All right.
All right, there I am. Hi, everyone. I'm really delighted to be here today to be celebrating the last 5 years of the Trust-Based Philanthropy journey. It's amazing to me that we started at that conversation at the GEO conference, and 5 years later, Trust-Based Philanthropy is a movement. It is really happening thanks to the leadership of the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project staff, the steering committee, as well as all of you on the phone and those that aren't on the phone and on Zoom today that have really made this a peer-to-peer movement. I wanna reflect on a couple of different things. One is why trust-based philanthropy even became a thing for me, as a person working in philanthropy and as the CEO at Headwaters. First of all, I've been in philanthropy way too long. I often have wanted to leave it because I thought the system was broken, unfair, inequitable. But I had an opportunity to start to think about what might philanthropy look like if it was different, if it centered equity, if it centered community, if it broke the power dynamic or attempted to break the power dynamic so that it wasn't those of us at the top, those of us with influence, those of us with power making the decisions, and instead allowing nonprofits and the communities they work with to really be in the power seat. So that took me to Headwaters, where I had an opportunity to build a foundation from the ground up in a trust-based system. And I want to call out that for us at Headwaters, it wasn't just about the grant-making practices. It was about the 4 dimensions and the significant structural system, leadership, and practice change that we had to do in order to reinvent a new kind of philanthropy. And I just happened to have the honor and privilege to have been doing that work at the time that the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project was being launched. So it became both a venue for peer-to-peer support, but also a platform to experiment with colleagues, both in and at Headwaters, but also across the field. That was a pilot from my perspective, and one that actually demonstrated that when we practice in this way, when we see power, when we center communities, when we are more equitable in the way that we do our work, and we get out of the way of nonprofits and facilitate the resources that we have for them, that it can be a more equitable, a more impactful work. And I love the quote from the film of, "We're doing this work from the heart," because I think that is really at its core why we did this work at Headwaters this particular way. As I've gone around to talk to people across the country in different foundations, I often have been told that this way of practicing can only be done at small foundations, at startup foundations, at foundations that aren't large and complicated. And that I was able to do this because it was a new foundation, a small foundation. So at the project, we often had conversations around how can we influence large foundations to see the possibility of being a trust-based funder? And could we one day have an opportunity to demonstrate that it can be done, that size doesn't matter, length of how long the foundation has been around doesn't matter, that if you have deep commitment to equity and to community, you can do this at any foundation. And that is when the California Endowment opportunity came around. And I'm really thinking that, or at least my hope is that I can take what we did at Headwaters and scale it and demonstrate to our field and our colleagues that that working this way is doable regardless of size or length or how big a foundation is. And I think the selection of me to be the president and CEO of the California Endowment is an indication that trust-based philanthropy is becoming to be seen as the future of philanthropy. I'm pretty sure that the board knew exactly who I was and what I had been talking about. You can Google me, you can Google Headwaters, and you'll learn all about the way that we have transformed the practice of philanthropy. And so their selection of me, I think, is an indication of where we have been impactful in helping the field think about what is the future leadership that is needed to transform philanthropy, to really allow communities to create more equitable societies. I think it's worth celebrating 5 years. I think it's wonderful that we are gathered here today to do that, but the work continues. And that's one of the reasons that I am excited about the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project not coming to an end, but rather beginning a new chapter. because the reality is that we are just beginning to get traction. We have definitely seen change in the field. We have seen adoption of the language. I can tell you of hundreds of foundations that I've spoken to that are now taking on trust-based practices. But there are a lot more folks out there that aren't part of the choir that we need to work on to bring along in this movement. We need to make sure that the field understands that it's more than the practices, that trust-based philanthropy is about equity, is about power sharing, and is about allowing communities and nonprofits to do the important work that they do and not to sit at the altar of philanthropy. The other thing that I know is happening is we have received pushback from folks, and that's always an indication when you're doing movement work that you are pushing against the power brokers. And that to me is another reason why this work needs to continue. I'm really excited about continuing to be in partnership with all of you with the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project and the staff in this new role, because I do believe that the future of philanthropy is trust-based. And that is why this work, this peer community needs to continue. And I cannot wait to see 5-10 years down the road to see the kind of progress that I know will be possible with the kind of leaders that are on Zoom today. Thanks, everyone. Please reach out, stay connected with me. I will need your support as I continue to push trust-based philanthropy in the work that we are doing and I'm hoping to be doing at the California Endowment.
Wow, thank you, Brenda. Woo, yes, yes, thank you. What an honor to have you gracing our presence during this time. I know you have a super busy schedule, so appreciative for your time and insights, and how inspirational to really just think about the future of philanthropy being trust-based with leaders like you at the helm. So thank you so much. And that's a perfect tee up to bring Shadi and Pia back on our main stage to talk a little bit more about what this future of TBP is going to look like. So I will pass the mic over to Shadi and Pia to take it away.
Thank you, Shantias. Thank you, everyone who's been speaking, Sebastian, Vu, Brenda. I think that everything you've shared is a testimony to why it doesn't make sense to leave the party that we started, you know? It's like, it's just getting good. It's like the time when Prince would come on stage. This is a bad time, I think, to leave. Even the comments that all of you made, I think there's 30 comments of nightmare scenarios that are not way back in the past. They're probably yesterday. Melinda, I'm gonna shout yours out. Someone said, we'll see if Trump wins, and then if Trump wins, we'll fund you. I mean, these kinds of, let's wait for crisis and catastrophe before we'll support any of this kind of work is where we're at. So in terms of, sometimes we do get asked the question, so you are a 5-year initiative, you've been wildly successful beyond the original dreams, why keep going? And I think that our answer to that is, with some success comes great responsibility. The Trees, Water, People story is one among so many stories in climate change, in human rights, in protecting democracy, in sort of every single area that the world is unfortunately flooded, on fire, in every way. It feels irresponsible not to use the leverage that we now have. And that leverage is simply this, that we have a presence and a power to influence. And ultimately, I think what we care about the most is what we just saw in that documentary. It's not about building up this project, it's about what we've always wanted. I know I see Mimi Locas in the room. Like, from the very beginning, we've wanted to help transform the experiences of partnerships, of social movement leaders, of nonprofit leaders, of the social sector, in terms of the way they get funded and resourced. We want that to look more like taking a good long walk with John Esterly and being able to reveal like what's really happening, not performing, and not making up whatever stats we think is going to make the funder happy, but truly working for actual structural, cultural change in our world. And so can't stop, won't stop is our message. And I'm gonna give it to Shadi to say a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I mean, we initially wanted to inspire some shifts, and we wanted to inspire commitments to shifts in practice. We're now seeing it, and we want to really go from a collectively built movement to a collectively held movement. So we're also continuing to keep our eyes and ears to the ground to understand, well, what are the barriers and the hurdles we need to overcome to get there? And we're very aware of some of the challenges. It's been incredible to see this adoption and increased awareness around trust-based philanthropy, increased references to it. But we're also with that seeing misinformation. In the last year, we've noticed a lot of misinformation that's cropping up, and some of that is a symptom of our success, I'd like to say, because people don't love that we're making waves. And so that shows that we got to keep going. We want to move from some of these shifts in practice to a deeper embrace on the cultural and structural levels so that this can be a long-lasting movement, so that this can build toward being the standard of practice for philanthropies committed to a just and equitable society. So we see that on the horizon. We see the possibilities. We see some of the barriers in the way. And so we have been developing a plan that we're to move into a new phase where we shift our work to ensure that we can build this kind of make this a collectively held movement where we can all carry it forward. And we know that we will continue to lean on relationships to do that. And we're also aware that trust-based philanthropy is part of a larger shift that's happening in the sector. It's not just about trust-based philanthropy. There's a lot of interrogation around power dynamics, and reimagining of philanthropy in many different ways. We see those efforts as our sister efforts, and we see a lot of power and potential in joining forces with those efforts to tell a bigger story about what's possible. So we're seeing what's happening. We're building upon this progress. We're looking forward, and we want to strengthen and fortify this movement in collaboration with you all. So we have 4 key strategies. So I'm handing it back to Pia to share those strategies, and then we'll offer some ways that you can stay involved.
Thanks, Shadi. So we're at the 5-year mark, and we're looking at another 5. And in that 5, here's what we see, and there'll be many invitations for you to be part of this. But we see that there, like Shadi mentioned, there are others who have a very similar North Star, right? The TBP or something like TBP, community-centered, community accountable, is the standard of practice for all funders committed to a just and equitable society. And what that means is that instead of saying, here's our wonderful TBP network, some of you are on the call now, we have thousands, around the country. Instead of saying that we have this network, we would love for the sort of definition of effective, impactful, community accountable philanthropy to be along the lines of what you've heard on this call, what you've heard from Sebastian, and that experience is then felt, by executive directors, many of you on the call who have had this frightening experience of having to fundraise in this way. So we welcome this, we want to bring in work on the narrative of what constitutes good philanthropy. We want to establish TBP and TB-like frameworks and models as the standard for effective philanthropy. And we see the kinds of partnerships that we see are things where we're not directing the entire sector to always come to the TBP project. We have, for instance, a partnership with the Giving Practice at Philanthropy Northwest, who are senior advisors in philanthropy. So we're partnering with them. We've done an intensive with their team to be another disseminator and a supporter for implementation of TBP. So this, we're hoping to decentralize ourselves as the hub, but actually to enable, to equip, to empower, and to support. This is just how we do things. It's like what we saw in Trees, Water, People film. They didn't call it TBP necessarily. It maybe is a helpful advocacy framework, Sebastian, but it's the way that people were operating from like a relational, purposeful, accountable way. And we want to, and so for those of you that are leading and are part of small to mid-size, often family philanthropies, we're staying with you. The heart of this effort has been powered by small to mid-size philanthropy. This wasn't a framework that Ford or Atlantic or one of the big philanthropies has sort of quote unquote bestowed or put upon the sector. This has come from much more grassroots and much smaller organizations. So we'll continue to mobilize and build out and partner with the engine of TBP, which is really small to mid-sized philanthropy. And lastly, and very excitingly, it's time to demonstrate. Jorge, I see you on this call. I know that you've said for a couple of years now, in order to convince the rest of the sector, like we need to demonstrate how this approach to philanthropy is actually more impactful. And so upcoming are field studies, field-wide studies, sector studies, multi-year studies of the impact of this kind of funding. Side note, if you want to support that, please get in touch with Shadi. So those are just like, that's like a peek into the next 5 years. And let me tell you, it's a really exciting moment in time. This doesn't feel like, oh, we've been successful, so I guess we have to keep delivering this stuff to the sector. It feels like I've never been in a place where I feel some level of confidence that we might have the ability to influence the entire sector. That's, I'm not trying to be egoistic because it is a collective influencing. It is not just one thought leader or one project, but the fact is, if we can leverage what we have collectively gained, the ground that we've gained, I mean, look at the level and the scale of the problems we're facing. Like, it just needs to change. It's not just, it would be nice, Vu, for us to tell different stories. It's that there is a critical need for the transformation of this sector to actually make tangible difference in the lives of those who are the most vulnerable to things like Hurricane Milton, for example. So get off my soapbox and pass it to Shadi to talk about ways that please stay engaged with us.
Yeah, thank you, Pia. There really is, there's a heightened sense of urgency to all of this, and it's really the core of what this is all about. So just to kind of recap, our 4 strategies are to deploy a proactive narrative strategy, to really address mindset barriers around donor centrism, to move toward more community-led change and elevating the importance of that, to establish knowledge infrastructure, which I know is a really wonky phrase, but the idea is that we will partner with organizations to equip them with the knowledge and the tools to continue to be advocates. We're going to continue to mobilize and support our funder advocates to mobilize their peers. So we're here for you to do that. And we will demonstrate the impact of trust-based philanthropy through a multi-year study. So these are kind of the pillar strategies. We will continue to iterate as we have from the get-go. We are really delighted that we've already gotten a number of funding commitments for this new chapter, and we're looking for more partners to do so. So if there's any of this that really speaks to you, if you are a funder on the call and really wants to be a part of one of these things, or to be informing some of this, or helping us realize this vision, contact me. Happy to discuss that. We have a donate link if you want to just contribute some support to us that way. But there's other ways to get involved. That's not the only way. Our peer exchanges are going to continue. We have a grant makers peer exchange. We have a consultants peer exchange. We invite you to join that. If you're representing an organization and you want to partner with us on one of these pillars, or if you have ideas on how you want to partner and collectively hold this movement with us, contact Pia and Shantias. And then, of course, we will continue to keep you all updated via our newsletter. So if you're not on the newsletter, check out the chat for ways to sign up. So lots to come. We are in the process of transition. We're going to go a little quiet over the next couple of months as we prepare for the next 5 years. But thank you for being in this with us, because we couldn't do it without you, and we appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shadi and Pia, for teeing up what is going to be such an exciting new chapter of this work. I'm so inspired by what's to come, and I hope you all are feeling empowered and inspired as well. We've still got more to go with this celebration. As I said, we're going to party. So we're partying here, and I hope you all are hanging on. As I mentioned, we've got some performances coming up. We've got some, special surprises. We've got a grand prize at the end. But of course, I want to circle back because Vu did get a chance to review all of your scary funder stories. And he did pick some winners. So Vu, do you want to share the people you selected?
Hey everyone, everything was really scary, so it was really hard to pick out everything. So this is completely arbitrary. But I picked the one by Melinda about Trump. Okay, we'll give you more money if Trump wins. That's terrifying. And then Wendy Todd, the nonprofits in Marin County are like crack addicts. That's not just scary, but that's just insulting and offensive. So that's awful. And Gerald Jacobs, you should be on your knees. That's just awful. So I hope those prizes that you're getting will be good consolation as you think about these horrifying things that you heard from funders. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Vu. And thanks everybody for sharing. It's one of those happy/sad things to win. But thank you all for sharing hopefully it was a little cathartic to be with others and kind of laughing about how ridiculous some of these things are. But yeah, Danielle will share those links with you all so we can get you your Nonprofit AF gifts. You'll be getting some tote bags and some notebooks and some mugs, Nonprofit AF stuff. So that was a little special surprise or special prize. And then we've got some regular prizes. So we're back to prize time. And our first question, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get the get the prize wheel back up there. Let me reset it. So the first question is, what resource would you share if a colleague is struggling with their board? A TBP resource. If a colleague is struggling with their board, what would you share? Love it. The board assessment. Oh. I will go ahead and give it to you, Juliet. There's two different resources. There's one on board responsibilities, 7 responsibilities of a trust-based board. And there's another one on strategic focal points for trust-based boards. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to you, Juliet. So let's spin the prize wheel. And you get a $100 gift card, the Visa gift card. So congratulations to you. Yay. We're gonna keep things moving. Congratulations. Here's another question, another prize opportunity. Name a recent convening or conference where TBP was on the main stage. You can just name the conference, the organization. I know we've got some PSO partners in the room that, it's all right, Melinda. Yeah. Melinda's on it. Yes, NCFP. Yeah, just happened. We've got quite a few champions, advocates have been on the main stage all over, but we'll give that to Melinda. All right, Melinda, you get to spin the wheel. Let's see what you get. You get a TBP mug. Congratulations. All right, and then we've got one more question for this point, and then we're going to go into a surprise performance. What would you share if someone is struggling with TBP at a community foundation? What would you share if they're struggling with TBP at a community foundation? Anybody? The peer network listserv is a good option. Common miss, that's another good one. All right, I think Robin got it. Yep, exactly. Robin got that one. It is community foundations. We've got some recordings there from some programming we did on TBP for community foundations. So we'll give that one to Robin, and you get to spin the wheel. And you are receiving a self-care basket.
Hurrah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Congrats. All right. So we're going to transition. Thanks to all of you for participating. I'm super excited for this special performance. For those of you that have been keyed in, a few months back, a viral video hit our peer exchange. It was making rounds on social media. I know Danielle is gonna share it in the chat, but it was a super hilarious collection of music videos around the pain points of conventional philanthropy practices entitled "I Hope Like Hell We Get This Grant." I don't know if y'all remember it, but it was super hilarious. We all laughed and enjoyed it. And the collection included songs like Cut the Check, Giving Tuesday, and Overhead Blues. And our brilliant and clearly aligned friends at the Memphis Music Initiative did a phenomenal job. So we wanted to bring them and invite them to do a special presentation for the TBP community. So here is a blurb they sent to tee up their performance. Unfortunately, nobody could be here to actively introduce it, but they wanted to share that the Memphis Music Initiative is a direct service provider and intermediary funder focused on creative youth development opportunities for Black and Brown youth. Coming from a majority Black community defined by a plantation economy and extreme philanthropic redlining, MMI is dedicated to embracing and expanding the principles of trust-based philanthropy, both in our own practice and through field building and advocacy efforts. Please visit our YouTube channel for more examples of our work. So without further ado, I present to you Of Dreams and Nightmares, a creative production by the Memphis Music Initiative.
Okay, focus. Grant requirements for this new program. I've got the financials, the audit, the quarterly reports, the Zoom check-ins, the in-person site visits, the blood oath, but something's missing.
What about a clause to call back the money if they're late with the reports? I mean, they could be misusing the funds.
It's not a bad idea, but wait, who are you?
You can see me?
Yes.
Like, see me?
Yes.
Oh, damn. Once they can see you, the gig is up. Oh, I'm the nonprofit boogeyman. Gender inclusive.
Hi.
Hi. Wanna grab a drink?
Okay. So how does this whole boogeyman thing even work?
Well, I was looking for my scary niche, and I've always thought that I hate when people help other people. So I figured, hey, what if I scared the people in philanthropy into thinking that they had to make it as hard as possible to give away grant money because everyone is out to get them? You know, misuse the funds, not do the work. So I just pop up and keep the fear going. It was a great gig. I thought I would do this forever.
So like when we don't allow overhead in the grant money, or we ask folks to put their budgets into a specific form.
All me. Been me since the beginning of what you folks call philanthropy.
Wow. And character limits, and when we harass people over the systems change they're supposed to do with $25,000.
Me, and me. You know, interim reports? That's my invention. You know, I was thinking, what if there were reports in between the reports? Bada bing, bada boom, I whispered it in the right ear, it became a thing.
So, who was the easiest to scare?
You know what? The Rockefellers. I mean, they were just like naturally jumpy people, you know? It was like, ah! You know, constantly. Oh, you know what? Audited financials?
Yeah.
Totally made up. There's nothing even in them, okay? Complete gobbledygook. And nobody in the history of ever has actually read one. I started getting kickbacks from the accounting people. You know, it was a crazy time, but I love it. You know what? Mackenzie Scott, she's a wily one. She really threw me for a loop. I mean, I thought she's got billions to spend. I was licking my chops. I thought this was about to be my Christmas. But she decided to start giving out money without a lot of requirements or reporting and whatnot. You know, touche, girl. So government grants, I don't even bother to scare those people anymore. I mean, it's too easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
But don't you feel bad at all about people not getting the money?
I get down like everybody else from time to time. But I usually just fly over the houses of the grant writers at night, like near midnight when you're trying to squeeze all that writing into your little proprietary portals that didn't save all of their information along the way. It makes me laugh. And that just keeps me going, gets me ready for the next day.
Crap. I guess it was just a dream. Okay, back to these grant requirements.
It's the perfect timing. You see the man shining. Get up on some goddamn diamonds.
Oh, yeah, I'm loving all of the comments in the chat. I hope you all enjoyed that that little performance from our friends at the Memphis Music Initiative. Let me put my screen back up. Yes, and we will be sharing the link, and they also will be publishing it. So if you want to share it and watch it again, I know it's super hilarious. I hope you all enjoyed that presentation or that performance. So we're gonna get into a few more prizes. And yeah, please feel free to keep the energy going in the chat. So another question. What would you share if someone believes TBP is the same thing as participatory grant making? That's the next question for a prize. What would you share if someone believes TBP is the same thing as participatory grant making? I know that's one of the things we get a lot. We've heard a lot. People feel like TBP and participatory grant making are the same thing. So is there anything you would share? Not seeing anything in the chat. Nobody wants a chance to spin the prize. Okay. I think we've got All right. Yeah. Yeah. I'll give it to Maxine. Congratulations, Maxine. You get a chance to spin the prize wheel. Let's see what you win. You get a Moleskine notebook. Congratulations. So we'll
Thank
share
you.
that prize. Congrats. So we will share that the link in the chat so you can get your prize. And then we've got another question for another prize. And this one, you all should be able to get this one. Which practice encourages funders to be proactive about getting to know prospective grantees and the larger ecosystem to reduce grantee burden? Which practice? Do the home. All right, y'all are on it. Love it. I think Claire got that one from my end. So Claire, you get a chance to win a prize. So let's spin the wheel, see what you get. Ah, you get a gift card. Congratulations. All right. Super exciting. Thank you. Nice job. All right. So, with that being said, as we transition, I know we're getting close to time. And again, we have one more big surprise at the end. So hopefully you're holding on. But of course, we have so many different people, organizations, and efforts. It's been reiterated time and time again here. This has been a community movement. And everybody has been leaning in different ways to make this movement what it's been. And we're so grateful for all of the hands, minds, and hearts that have invested so much time into this greater vision of a philanthropic sector that is more trust-based. So as we close our time together, we do want to share some gratitude with all of the various players that have been a part of our community. And of course, we want to start with our larger community, our network just in general. And you know, we could pull a billion different pictures for please don't feel offended if you're not in the pictures. We couldn't do a billion slides, but there's so many of you that have been doing this work. And so we just want to share deep, deep gratitude to our vast, amazing, beautiful network. This community has grown leaps and bounds over the past years, and you all have leaned in, learning, growing, sharing, and connecting on so many different fronts. We have the peer exchange, we have the subscribers, we have resource sharers, speakers, program participants, advocates. You all have brought so much joy and insight to this work and so much hope for the future of the philanthropic sector. So this is me sending a big, big thanks to all of you. And we'll be sharing some gratitude for other parts of our community. And please feel free, as people are sharing gratitude, to share, either give people their flowers in the chat. You can put a little flower emoji. If you want to call out specific people, please feel free to. If you want to do the reaction button and give hearts or whatever it is, this is just our moment to share love with one another for all of the different players in this larger movement. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Shadi to do the next part of our gratitude circle.
We couldn't have gotten to this point without our fabulous and wonderful steering committee. I know some of you are here with us today. This committee really stepped in at a time when we were growing, and stepped in to help us envision what comes next. And you all were really key in helping us recognize that perhaps we should keep going a little bit longer. So thank you for all of you for the time that you volunteered, the leadership, the guidance, the strategy, the partnership, the commiseration at times, and for being such wonderful stewards and leaders in this work. You can see that we actually gave our steering committee various awards to acknowledge their critical role in this movement. And it was really hard to sum up everyone in just a few words, but you can see some of them here, how we honored them. We are so grateful to you as a steering committee, Pamela, Gabriela, John, Brenda, Phil, Carrie, Dimple, and of course our early on steering committee members, Salome Lema, Lisa Cowan, John Esterly. This has been, it's really been an honor to learn from you all and work with you all. And thank you for everything that you've done.
Hi, this is Phil, and I have the distinct pleasure of lifting up the TBP staff. It is an amazing group of people that have had the pleasure of working with and seeing their smiling faces and having them always there and present, you know, the dedication, the commitment, thoughtfulness, and especially the energy to keep moving everything forward. We've had good moments, we've had some tough ones, but knowing that this has been a team that has always been there and really bringing things forward. We've had staff members who have come and gone on to new things and new adventures. We've had consultants who joined us along the way and moved on as well. But it's this whole group together that has made everything happen. And it is really a tribute to them that they're sort of the unsung heroes in many respects, because often we as the steering committee get seen and are more visible, but it's really the folks, this whole team of people who are all working together. And so I'm so pleased to have that opportunity to lift all of them up and share that moment and say, let's celebrate all of these folks who have been with us along this journey. Some will move on to new roles and some will continue, and excited just for all of us as we continue to move the trust movement forward.
And I just wanted to acknowledge all the funders who you see on the screen, those that supported the project initially, and those that provided support as it continued to evolve and grow, and brought not just financial support, but their support as advocates, as ambassadors, both in public speaking and in lots of informal conversations, which I think sometimes are just as important and impactful. And the funders embodied trust-based funding all throughout. And I think that's a powerful story in and of itself. It has always struck me that one of the things that was so important to the project was being able to start with a 5-year plan and know that the basic budget was covered. And I think that's an important lesson that can't be repeated enough to funders. If you talk with people and you go, what do you need to be successful? What would happen if we just fully funded them and go from there, so they can focus on the work, they can focus on the movement building, and not right out of the gate be focusing on fundraising. So for all the funders listed here, deep gratitude for their faith and trust in what we could do together.
And I get the distinct pleasure to just thank everyone who speaks and teaches and advises and guides on behalf of Trust-Based Philanthropy. Way back, we called this group of people activators, which I love, has sort of a superhero sound to it. Eventually, activators became champions and champions became ambassadors. But the point is, these are folks who have committed themselves to the practice of trust-based philanthropy in their contexts and are sort of peer organizing. One thing I don't know if we mentioned, but so many of the representatives of small to mid-sized philanthropies that have been the powerhouses of trust-based philanthropy are doers. They're practitioners. I see Dimple on this call. I see Pamela. I see folks who in their leadership roles in philanthropy, they practiced and then took another step outward to advocate and organize within the sector in this direction. So thank you, thank you, thank you. There's no way we can encompass on one slide all the many, many people who do this. It connected to the project and sometimes not at all connected to the project. So deep, deep gratitude for everyone who's here and everyone who might be watching and everyone who will never watch this. Thank you for being champion.
Hello, everyone, and I would love to share a thank you to our PSO partners. We're sharing deep gratitude for these amazing partners that we've had throughout the project and continue to have. We've had the privilege of working with you all. You've been such a wonderful champion, a wonderful advocate of the work. Over time, you've leaned in, you've helped amplify our work, you've encouraged your members and answered their questions. You've partnered with us in the spirit of service, you've shared resources, and you've been such an amazing conduit for this work across the sector and lifting it up. And you've been so invested in seeing a more trust-based sector, and your dedication and your commitment to this work is so, so deeply appreciated. We couldn't have done any of this without you and your partnership. So thank you. And with that, I would love to turn it back over to Shantias to bring us into our final big prize and our big surprise.
Thank you, Danielle, and thank you to everybody again for participating in our gratitude circle. And, I hope you all feel the love as we step back and thought about all we've accomplished in these 5 years. We definitely thought it was important for us to have a time and space to really be reflective on all that we've accomplished together. And so I hope you're feeling the love and appreciation and also excitement for this new chapter and future future evolutions of this work and sustaining this work in the sector. So as I close us out, I do have an action item for everybody. I want you to share in the chat an action item that you're inspired to do based on our time together today. So share in the chat anything that's coming up for you, anything you're inspired to do based on our time together today. And I encourage everybody to go in and like and react to certain things, react to things. And so I just encourage everybody to take a second to really just step back and think about what you've been inspired to do based on our time together today. And while you're doing that, we have a special TBP poem that we'll share. And then we'll have our final prize, and that'll conclude our time together today. So as I see people are putting things in the chat, I also just encourage people, like I said, make sure you're liking, loving, thumbs up, all of those sorts of things. So I want to share this piece. It's called A Bridge of Trust, A World Renewed. In the quiet spaces where change begins, trust-based giving lets hope win. No longer bound by rigid demands, it's love in action, open hands. Unrestricted funds like seeds in the earth, nurturing dreams, giving them birth. Less strings, less ties, just trust and grace. A partnership formed at a deeper pace. The nonprofits rise, no longer alone, with funders beside them, fully grown. Together they listen, together they see a future built on equity. Uh-oh. It's not just money, it's trust, it's care, a belief in people, a world more fair. We lift up voices, we share the load, walking this long and winding road. In every grant, in every plan, there's a chorus. We trust you, we can. For when hearts align and power is released, the work of justice is finally unleashed. So I hope you feel inspired and excited about this new chapter of our work and about the sustaining of our work and of our community. With that, I'm just looking in the chat and seeing all of the different action items that people are inspired to do. Seeing a lot of different energy. And I see sorry. I see we've got our official winners of our grand prize. So the grand prize actually is going to be whoever got the most likes on their action item. And so it looks like Mimi has 7 likes. Well, sorry, I'm catching up on the chat. I actually don't think that's an action item. But you know, I think I'm gonna give it because there's also, sorry, catching up on the chat. I actually am gonna give it to Sebastian with the likes. And yeah, Sebastian, congratulations. You have won our grand prize, which will be a trust-based basket. It'll have a bunch of different things that we shared in there. So thank you all for sharing your action items. Thank you all for leaning in and participating. Danielle, if you can share with him the prize link. And we will get that to you all. We'll also get you the performance recordings and everything else. And as we mentioned, please feel free to reach out with your ideas, your thoughts, your plans, the ways to make this work better. Shadi, Pia, do you all want to share anything before we close out?
Well, just to shout out you, Shantius, for being our fabulous MC and program designer and making a Zoom an actually fun and entertaining experience. Thank you. And thank you to all of you. Really, we're really excited about what's next. Thanks for sticking with us for 2 hours. We will be in touch. We're not going away. We're excited for what's next, and we appreciate you all. So thank you. Thanks for being with us.
Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah.
Feel free to come off mute, say hello, say goodbye, give your love. Thank you all.